Imagine living your life in complete darkness. How would your life change, and what senses would you rely on? I can see all of you, so you can shout out things or raise your hand if you want.
Hearing.
Hearing?
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Smell.
Yeah. Maybe like touch?
Yeah.
Touch. Nice. Yeah, back there.
It looks so bad.
I feel like there's another hand over this way.
Ramming into things.
Okay.
That's my personal best method of finding my way in the dark.
Oh,
Yeah.
Maybe my eyes would get bigger. So I could see more light.
That's true too. So for us, this might be a hypothetical scenario, but for a lot of animals, this is reality.
Yes.
They're relaxed.
Yes. Whoa.
All right, so my name is Rae. I'm a wildlife major at UWSP, and I've worked here at Schmeeckle for about 3 years, and I've learned a lot about small mammals during that time, because they're my favorite little guild of animals. And so we're going to be talking about that. Also, this is my wonderful assistant, Dana.
Yes.
If you hear me referencing Dana, this is Dana. All right, so today we're going to be exploring how survival adaptations in small nocturnal mammals represents the balance of nature, and how they all use a different blend of vocal and hearing and navigation and winter adaptations to best survive in the night. So today we're going to be specifically talking about mice, bats, and flying squirrels. Who's ready for that?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
All right, so some quick things about what the program is going to look like. The walk itself is probably going to be less than a quarter mile, and some of the spots are a little bit sloshy icy, so make sure that we're watching where we're going. We've got a bucket of flashlights and headlamps that y'all can pick from. Please, if you feel comfortable, use one of them so you know where you're going. And then we're going to be outside. We're going to be outside for about the whole hour, so please make sure that you're bundled enough to handle being outside for an hour. All right? Okay, so we're going to start heading to our first spot once everybody has grabbed some light gear, and we're going to be starting by talking about bats. So talk to someone, maybe someone you know, maybe someone you don't know, about a time that you've encountered a bat before. All right? Whoa! Right in the eyes.
When you watch
All right,
it won't be
I want to hear from y'all. How have you encountered bats before? I want to know. Yeah.
No, we've seen them. They've been in the basement at our rental house.
One. Anybody else? Where are bats that you've seen before? Yeah.
in the attic.
In the attic. They have a habit of doing that. So far, I've seen a lot of in-houses. Anybody else? Not in houses? Yeah.
In a roost.
In a roost.
Outside that was built by people so that bats could live in there.
Fun one. Yeah. I'll steal a story from a friend of mine back home. Her grandpa was cleaning out their gutters, and there was a bat in there, and it bit him. Forever known as Ray's grandpa. So, yeah, see? All right, so when I think bats, I think echolocation. And echolocation is, here, I'll give you all the opportunity. Does anybody know what echolocation is? And want to describe it?
Location said you make a sound and it bounces back and you figure out where it is.
Yeah, so bats are basically screaming all the time. And they're just listening to what that sounds like. And that can help them figure out where objects are in the dark. So, this back here behind me
It's a bat screaming machine.
is the bat monitoring station. Oh, wow. Close-up action we've got going on here.
Show me.
Professional videographers.
Call me Steven Spielberg.
All right, so this here machine records bats. And it only records ultrasonic frequencies, which means it's above the range of human hearing. So it wouldn't be recording us right now, but if I was to, say, demonstrate an ultrasonic frequency, it would be like this. I was really taxing on the vocal cords. Alright, so that's basically what bats are doing all the time, and then listening to it. And this data is taken by the Bat Project on campus run by Dr. Chris Yonke, who is the head of the mammals department. And he takes all of this data, and it's all just recordings. They're never holding a bat. But they give us some cool data. Whoa, data. Alright, so, yeah.
That's really
Yeah, bats definitely do live in caves. We don't have any caves in Schmeeckle, but we definitely have a lot of trees. And some of those bats live inside the trees, which is super fun. Some of them even live on top of, like, on the branches and pretend to be leaves, like the eastern red bat. Which, if you look here, we've got a lot of eastern red bats being recorded at this station. And that doesn't mean there's necessarily a lot of them in Schmeeckle, but it means that there's a lot of them screaming right above this recorder. And eastern red bats migrate, which means that they're only here for a couple months out of the year. So it's really interesting that we have so many of them. And some of y'all might have been listening to that and thinking, wow, that data was really cool. You guys have a lot of knowledge about bats. But some of you might be thinking that they've never held a bat in their hands before, so how are they identifying these bats? Well, bats all have unique vocal frequencies, like this. I don't know if y'all can see that over there. You're standing in the dark. I hope that you can. Alright, but if you look here, this is what bat echolocation looks like when it's like that. So, you guys are doing a great job spotlighting. I really appreciate that. So you can see that the red bat has a shorter frequency than, say, the northern long-eared bat. There's a really wide range of frequency. And say that the silver bat has a really long call. And we can all tell that through the recordings from this device. You can put them in a computer system and it'll ID it automatically for you, which is the wonders of technology. You can hand do it too, but I wouldn't want to do that. Alright, so for a second, I want y'all to do a listening activity, right? This time of night is when nocturnal mammals are the most active, so maybe we can hear some of them. So we want to be as still as possible so we're not rustling and stuff, alright? Just take a few minutes and listen really closely. I'm going to close my eyes to see if that makes me listen better, alright? But we just want to listen real quick to see if we can hear any sort of critters. Ready? Go ahead. Did anybody hear anything? Nothing at all? Alright. Well, one of those reasons might be that all of the critters that we're going to be talking about today can emit ultrasonic frequencies, which means that they can talk at levels that we can't hear, right? So they might be doing that right now and we just don't know. That's pretty fascinating. Alright, so can anybody think of a reason why it might be important that these animals emit such high frequencies? Can it go farther? That's definitely a good solution. I think it can probably go farther. But yeah, you.
So predators that can't hear it can't tell where they are, and the prey can't hear it.
Yeah, that's a wonderful answer. So basically, yeah.
Some bats can climb like the Easter bats. The flying fox does.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So if we look at this, there's a lot of things on this one. All right, but you can see this here in the gray is the range of human hearing. So everything in the gray is something that we can hear. Alright? And then everything in this darker color is their hearing ranges, and then the gold is vocal ranges. Alright, but I promise I'll explain it for those of you who can't see this. But owls and foxes, which are two main critters, can't hear ultrasonic frequencies. So while owls might have really good hearing, and they might be able to hear a mouse's heartbeat from up to a foot away, they wouldn't be able to hear all that mice are saying, which is a pretty good defense, if you ask me. They're being really sneaky. I'm gonna have Dana hold this real quick while we talk more.
They can't figure out where the mouse's hot spot is or where they can.
Alright, so we're gonna talk about some purposes for these calls. Turn my volume up as much as possible so hopefully y'all can hear the calls. Alright, so in the range that we can hear, what bats are doing is communicating with each other. So all of the things that bats are saying that we can hear are social calls. So if they're in your house and you can hear them, they're not echolocating, they're just talking to each other. Or talking to themselves, I guess, if they're alone. So this is what
I
that...
hear an owl.
You hear an owl?
Yeah.
I'm jealous. I wanted to hear an owl. I'll have to listen closer next time.
Good ears, buddy.
Yeah. Here, I'll walk around with this so you can hear it better. This is what a bat making social calls would sound like. Now, echolocation, sadly, is something that we can't hear. They do it at above the range of human hearing. But, with the help of technology, it can be brought down in frequency in recording so we can hear it. So this is what echolocation sounds like. And note that it's very complex clicking sounds. If you listen really closely, you can hear that they're kind of overlapping. And that sort of
I
detail...
hear an owl.
Talking over it. I want to hear an owl. Sorry, I'm getting off track. But we're talking about vocalization, so that's on track. Yeah. Alright, so this is what echolocation would sound like. Alright, so now for mice, some of y'all might have heard some of these calls from mice being in your house. It happens. But, from what we can hear, we're typically hearing female mice that are alone. They make what we call sustained vocalizations. Another thing that we can hear is barks, which are territorial. Unless you have a lot of mice in your house, I guess some of you might. Foxes definitely bark, and mice can bark too. It sounds different. Alright, but this is what a mouse sounds like.
Barking?
That is the sustained vocalization. It just kind of sound like a bark,
I don't
but
think there's two of them.
I think that if someone blindfolded me and asked me to tell the difference between what the mouse call sounded like and the bat call sounded like, I would not be able to tell the difference. And I don't know if there's a reason for that, but I hope that there's never a bat in my house, because I would think it's a mouse. Alright, and then something that we can't hear that mice do is sing. Did y'all know that mice sing all the time? That's a pretty fun fact, I think. So there are some mice out west that sing at a frequency low enough that we can hear it. But then our mice, like the house mouse and the white-footed mouse, are singing at a higher frequency than we can hear. And this is what that sounds like. and that's brought down in frequency that we can hear it. But personally, I'm really glad that we cannot hear that, because I think that the mouse that's currently living in my ceiling would drive me absolutely crazy. You don't want to know what he's talking about. Flying squirrels are next. So there's not much research into what flying squirrels are talking about here. So I do know what we can hear, and they're very chatty. I don't know if y'all know that much about flying squirrels, but they talk a lot. So I'm going to imitate it, and then I'm going to play it, and you're going to say, wow, professional flying squirrel imitator, all right? So flying squirrels that we can hear, they kind of run around all the time, and they're chatting a lot. So while they're running, they're kind of making like a ee sort of a sound while they're running around. And then they also have this warning call, which has space in between it. So it'll be like a ee, which is at the end of the recording. So see if you can tell the difference between them running around and them giving a warning. So that at the end there is that warning call. I'm going to bring it over to you.
That's what I'm doing. Are you feeling okay? You doing okay? If you get tired, let me know or pass it off. That's cool.
I want to try it.
It's up to you. They might be nice too.
Alrighty. What do y'all think? Do you think that I could quit my job right now and be a professional flying squirrel imitator?
Yeah, here you go. Yes.
I would have been pretty
Just a lot
excited
of
if you
money.
said no. I don't need a bachelor's degree, actually. Schmeeckle doesn't need it anymore. I'm sorry, Melissa. Alright, so I think that we might officially be experts on these animals' vocalizations. So now we're going to talk about their hearing and how their hearing compares to ours. Yeah. You want to talk about foxes? I don't have much on foxes. They're not really my expertise. But I will tell you a little insider tip. We do have foxes in Schmeeckle. I don't see any right now, but I'm looking for one. Alright, so if you notice one on the walk, please point it out. I want to see it. Welcome back to our next stop, which is Zimmerman Prairie, which is perfect mouse habitat. When I think mouse, I think ginormous ears. They just have the biggest ears. And while that is excellent for all of these critters to have ginormous ears for dodging predators and sensing danger, it's also a really good way for projects like the Small Mammal Project on campus to tell the difference between species. So the Small Mammal Project on campus is run by the Wildlife Society, which is an undergraduate organization that does a bunch of research in Schmeeckle. Alright, so they use these, which are vermin traps, and they put them in grids all across Schmeeckle to catch small mammals, specifically rodents. So if y'all have never seen a Sherman trap before, this is key. Alright, so this back hatch opens up, stays in there, so they'll use a mixture of milk and peanut butter put in there, and then this snaps down, and this would be a live trap, and they're kept like this, and then if you can see, I actually don't know what you can see, I just see a bunch of blinding lights. So I'm not sure what y'all see, but inside there's a little pressure pad, so when animals walk into it, it snaps shut, and it's a live trap, so they can let them go once they do all their little research to them. But
That nice.
you can see that there's a bunch of different rodents. Anything, actually. I wish I could tell you that I could see what we're talking about. Sorry, they had to get the close-up, y'all. I'm sorry about that. Alright, so these are just some of the rodents that we have here in Wisconsin. And some of the ones that they get the most often on the Small Mammal Project are white-footed mice and deer mice, along with voles and shrews. So, does anybody know how to tell the difference between a vole and a mouse?
Their snout.
Their snout? That's definitely part of it, yeah. Oh, yeah, get up close to it. With this one is the wolf? Yeah, I like that. Definitely. So, oh, you have something too?
Wolves are black. Mice are brown.
Some voles are actually pretty brown too. So, voles have really short ears, really tiny eyes, and a tail. Well, mice are the opposite. They've got a pretty normal sized tail, they got huge eyes, and they have huge ears. So that's one way to tell mice apart from voles. And then there are two types of mice that are caught here, the woodland mouse and the deer mouse. That's not true. The white-footed mouse and the deer mouse. There is a woodland mouse, but we didn't really get that one. So they are basically identical when looking at them. They look the same. And the best way to tell them apart is through genetic testing. But they're an undergrad. They don't really have money for genetic testing. So Dr. Chris Yankee, the same fella from the Bat Project, has come up with a way to tell them apart. And that is that they have slightly different ear lengths. So white-footed mice have a little bit of longer ears. So if it's greater than 16 centimeters, it would be a white-footed mouse. But if it's less than 16 centimeters, it's a deer mouse.
Oh.
And that's pretty accurate overall. And that has seen that the Small Mammal Project has seen a trend that 96.4% of all of their captures are white-footed mice. So clearly we have a big population of them in Schmeeckle, especially because I barely ever see them. I see voles all the time. So that was really surprising to me, but that's a great fun fact. All right, so now that we've talked about the Small Mammal Project,
Yeah, I know, yeah. Yeah. So you
talk
see me
about
at Belts.
ears. All right, so these are all the critters that we're talking about today. I think y'all can see this. All of the light that's shining on it. Fun, right? All right, so mice, like I said, super big ears. Their ears like the size of their face. It's pretty ridiculous. So you can think of a mouse ear sort of as a satellite dish, and it's taking all of the information from all of the directions and funneling it straight into their ear so they can hear as much as possible. We'll talk about this later, but mice have pretty poor vision. So they really rely on that sense of hearing to tell what's going on around them. Yeah.
Some mouse have big ears. Some bats have small ears.
It's true.
Other mouse have small ears too. Nose and ears. Sometimes they have this.
Yeah.
Sometimes they have big eyes. Sometimes they have little eyes.
Yeah. So, I don't know if y'all can hear the genius that is in our group, alright? This is truly the smartest that I've ever met, I think. Alright, so basically, summary, some mice don't have big ears, and that's true. But a bunch of the ones that are in Schmeeckle have really big ears. So that's why we're talking about them like this. Alright, so bats also have really big ears. Can anyone guess why bats have really big ears? For sonar? Yeah, for echolocation. They need those big ears. Now, talk a little bit about the details of bat ears. Bats have really big tragus, which on our human ear, show off with mine, it's this little bit of your ear right here. You can feel it within your own ear. And that tragus is used in echolocation to tell where vertically, where up and down an object is in the landscape. And then all these little ridges on the sides of the ears are to see how far away something is for that depth perception. And then there's a bunch of little extra ridges in there to really be specific about where the objects are. Your dad will catch a prey without really seeing it. That can be tough. And then flying squirrels have the simplest of the ears that we're talking about today. They're pretty basic. You think about a mammal, that's a flying squirrel ear. Alright, so they're pretty simple, but they have more fur than the other ones. That's because they are worried more about staying warm than they are about hearing. So, now, we're going to test our human hearing against the averages for our age groups, alright? So, stick that in the ground there. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to go about this in 2 rounds. There's more easier than I was expecting. back to me. I'm going to start with this half over here, but I'm going to explain it real quick. Just because for this one you kind of got to see the screen. Alright, so, some of y'all might have done this in the past. I actually can't see that there's anybody over there. The light is so bright in my eyes that you guys look like there's nobody standing there. So, this here is what that's going to look like, and I promise I'll bring it closer and show more. But the iPad is going to play a gradient, so it's going to get really high in frequency at the end. And that is going to be the maximum range of your hearing. If you want to look at this number up here, this one here, this one currently says 20 hertz, and then the graph I'm going to show is in kilohertz. So we'll talk about how high your hearing can go versus what the average for your age group is. So basically, when you can't hear the sound, just keep your hand down, and then you can raise it when you can hear it, put it back down when you can't hear it again. And just remember the number up here. We can talk about it later. Alright, so in the very beginning you won't be able to hear anything. I mean, maybe you will, and you just have like way better hearing than I do. I promise it's playing a sound the whole time. It's just below the range of human hearing in the very beginning. So I'm going to play it for them real quick. It takes about a minute, and I'm going to come over to y'all and do the same thing. So sorry for that wait, but if y'all want to gather around me a little bit.
And for your headphones.
Alright, so can y'all see the screen? Alright, so just remember this number, and then raise your hand when you can hear it, and put your hand down when you can't hear it anymore. Alright, remember that number. I'll come back to you.
I don't remember it. Me neither.
It really gets in your head.
It makes it sound like it's coming in this ear, then this one, and then this one.
So, this here is a graph. Alright, so, this is how human hearing declines over time. Alright, so, and I promise, this is not meant to be offensive, this is what?
This is fact.
Well, it's not just fact, but the phrasing is what the research article used. If you're alive and you're not hearing impaired, you should be able to hear up to 8 kilohertz. If you're below 50, you should be able to hear 12. If you're below the age of 40, you should be able to hear 15. If you're below the age of 30, you should be able to hear 16. And if you're below the age of 20, you should be able to hear 17. Personally, I'm 20 right now. Yeah, get a close-up on that one. That's true. Women can typically hear higher pitches. But I'm 20, but I can hear up to about 17.5. So I'm a little bit better than the average for my age group. How do y'all compare to the average for your age group? Raise your hand and tell me about it. Yeah. Yeah. All right. I like that one. Anybody else? Are you better or worse? Yeah. I'm on average. You're on average. That's what I like to hear. Anybody else? Alright, so what are some ways, besides age, that humans can experience hearing loss because of? Any ideas? Yeah, definitely.
Diseases.
Sure. Anybody else? Yeah. Loud concert. Yeah. My twin brother has a little bit of hearing loss. He has played drums for a very long time, and until he got to college, I believe, they didn't make him wear earbuds. So, whoops, now he has hearing loss and tinnitus. Sucks for him. Alright, so if we're talking about how loud things can cause hearing loss, are there any animals that we talked about today that might also experience hearing loss? Yeah. Bats definitely experience hearing loss, yeah. So a bat's whole life is just screaming and listening to it. And I mean, imagine you're living in a cave with a bunch of bats, and their whole lives are screaming and listening to it. That's a lot of screaming and then listening to that. So bats are definitely experiencing hearing loss because of how loud their surroundings always are. And that's kind of tough for them. But we're going to get upbeat next, and we're going to be talking about navigation and how these animals explore their surroundings. And we're going to be talking about bats, flying squirrels.
Yeah.
I don't know if y'all have seen this based on the way that I talk about them. I love flying squirrels a lot. No more than bats and mice, but they hold a special place in my heart. So I want y'all to talk amongst yourselves about whether you've ever seen a flying squirrel before. And if yes, how, what, when, where, why. I want to know everything. Alright? So we're going to head to our next location. So, just to start, I can't really see you, but I'll see you in spirit, just by a raise of hands. How many of y'all have seen a flying squirrel before? That is so many more of you than I was expecting. I want to hear a couple stories from at least some of you. How, what, when, where, why. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah.
Here.
Here.
When I was volunteering for the Candlelight Hike.
Candlelight Hike is a great time to see them. It's one of the only times you're technically allowed to be in Schmeeckle at night. So it's a great time to see flying squirrels. Anybody else? Yeah.
I have this super cool photographer friend, and she showed me exactly where I could find them at night.
Oh my God,
we saw
was it me?
3 of them. Yes. We saw 3 of them, and they're so cute.
They are super cute. Anybody else have a fun flying squirrel story?
What was that? I think my dad had one. Yeah, my dad had one laying on the tree.
Sometimes, yeah, sometimes I really think that they're out to get me. Not in a menacing way, just in the way that I'm standing next to a tree and then they land on the tree in front of me, and I think they were trying to hit me. Not in a mean way, just in a way that to show me they were there. Alright, so all of these different critters breed. Oh, wait, yeah. That was a really good impression. I think that if anyone should quit their job and become an impressionist, it's that one right there. It shouldn't be me. I'll keep my job if it gives you a career. Alright, so all of these different critters have different methods for seeing in the dark, even if it's not really seeing. And some of that, especially for flying squirrels, can have some really cool sight adaptations that allow them to see themselves in a different way. So, ultraviolet light is a light that we can't see as humans, UV light, but we can see it out of black light. So, if anybody has been under a black light recently, who can tell me what color white glows under black light? Yeah. Yeah, basically, it's like a purpley blue color. So, if you've seen a flying squirrel, you know that their stomachs are white, but, and I'll pass this around because it's a really cool picture, under black light, because of a hormone that they secrete, flying squirrels glow bright pink on their stomach. Black light.
Yeah. You gotta get a black light. You can get one pretty cheap.
Yeah.
You
You can see that
It looks like they're from a cartoon or something.
Ignore that for right now, but this is the really cool one. Yeah.
It looks like it was in a cartoon or something.
Well, y'all can put a black light on your windowsill, and I bet you'll see them do that. With your cat.
Rainbow squirrel.
All right, so I will admit this is a picture from the internet, but I have done this before with the flying squirrels that we have here, and then the Flying Squirrel Project with the Wildlife Society has also done this before to show off this really cool, interesting adaptation that they have. Now, flying squirrels, unlike us, have really good night vision, and they can see ultraviolet light. So they see themselves like this. So, yeah, it is weird. So, it might be a way for them to help recognize others of their species that they see. Look at that. Must be another one of these. Others think it might be a form of imitating predators. So, if you saw this while I was walking around, this is the wing of a saw-whet owl. And it also has that glowing plumage under blacklight. So it could be that they're imitating the predators so they're more secure. So the Flying Squirrel Project on campus is also with the Wildlife Society. They also use Sherman traps with the oat peanut butter mix to bait, but they have their traps set up on the ground in the trees. They string them up about like 2 knees tall, like 10 feet-ish tall. That's the most exciting thing that anybody's ever told me. I'm sorry, but I can't talk about that right now. I can't get distracted. I gotta get my head in the game, even if it's distracted. Oh yeah, I probably should have phrased that better. They whispered to me that there's records.
Yeah.
Just so you all have the context for why I'm
Oh,
excited.
yeah, at the bird feeder. Well, look at that. Look at that tail hanging off.
And that they all have different priorities when it comes to what survival edit. One trend that the Flying Squirrel Project has noticed is that we no longer have northern flying squirrels in Schmeeckle. There are 2 species of flying squirrel in Schmeeckle, or there used to be, the northern and the southern flying squirrel. And it used to be that their range ended right in the middle of Schmeeckle. So sometimes, some years we'd get northern, some years we'd get southerns. And now, in the past 10 years, we've only gotten southern flying squirrels because their range of the northerns have gone northwards because of climate change. So one way for y'all to ID this, I don't know if you're getting this close to flying squirrels, probably not, but the way to ID it is that southern flying squirrels have all white stomachs. Even at the root of their fur, it's all white. While northern flying squirrels have that dark brown base of their fur. So I suppose if you ever hold a flying squirrel in your hand, now you can tell if it's a northern or a southern flying squirrel. Alright, so some of the flying squirrels have really amazing vision, like we said. Flying squirrels, even though they're called flying squirrels, technically, they can fly, but they can't fly in the direction that are in my brain. It's literally the only thing I'm thinking about. So when I'm getting back into it, they slowly catch that food. It's coming. They start free falling. All right, so slow their fall, but they can't start flying. So they really need that super accurate vision. Bats, on the other hand, don't need it as much. They can fly, and they rely really heavily on echolocation. So bats don't have increased night vision. So bats can see about as well as humans can at night. So some people might have good night vision. I don't. I can't see over there. I don't know if you can. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. But some bats, like those in the tropics that eat fruits and nectar, they have better vision and worse echolocation. It's way easier to see a fruit than to echolocate it. While an insect, you really have to echolocate it to see exactly where that insect is. So, there are 3 phases of echolocation. Alright, there is the search phase, the approach phase, and the terminal phase. The search phase is basically screaming into the void and hoping that you hear something that sounds like an insect there. And they're doing that a lot. That's basically all of their phases, is just searching and searching. And then the approach is when they're starting to get closer. They know that there's an insect there, and they're really trying to pinpoint where it is. The terminal, they know where it is. They're going in for the kill, all right? But bats catch their prey in midair. They don't land to get it first. So they've got two methods, all right? The first one is the net method, and they're flying, and it's an insect that is also flying, and they scoop it up with their body, right? The second method is when the insect is on a surface, and they've got these talons here on their ankles, and they grab it like that. All right. I can't see anybody, so I don't know where Dana is.
I'm right here.
There's Dana. I just see a bunch of lights. My night vision is ruined. All right, but I'm gonna show y'all, and I'll go around so everybody can see it. But I'll show y'all a quick video of what echolocation looks like. And at the very bottom of the video, the same thing that I've been showing you all day, which is the like written out echolocation. As the bat gets closer to the prey, so do the holes. They get closer together. So I'm gonna start over here. Oh. Sorry, I cannot see anything. Oh, that's right. All right, so back to that's how they hunt. I'll show y'all next route. That's coming up this way, that's the insect. Boom. I'm not flexible enough to do that. All right.
Yeah.
Boom.
That's
Is
like
that the
me
net approach? Get eaten. Me getting refrigerated.
It's like a flip.
All right. So we know that the term blind as a bat isn't really accurate to bats. But if we're thinking about mice, I think we should all start using the phrase blind as a mouse. Mice can't see anything. I really think that the 3 blind mice would have been fine. They're being dramatic. They can't see anything anyway. So if we're talking about human vision, the perfect human vision is 20/20. And the higher that second number goes, the worse your vision is. Mice have 22,000. They can easily blind as they I've been told that the best rule of thumb is that mice can see about as well as we can in our far off peripheral vision, which that's kind of just like blurry colors. And because they don't have better night vision, that's blurry monochrome is nothing at all. So mice need other methods.
So what's the color of their
See
eyes
in the
to
dark.
begin with?
What might y'all think is one method that mice use to navigate in darkness? Yes, yeah.
Do they have like a heat sensor?
A heat sensor would be really cool, but they don't have that. Yeah. I hear Whiskers. Whoa! It's Whiskers, guys. So, they do use their sense of smell, but if we're talking about Whiskers, we're talking about Whiskers. I just want to pick that up. So, for humans, and for other primates, we have the most amount of touch receptors in our fingertips. That's why, when you're blind, you read Braille with your fingertips and not your forehead, right? So, if you were to use the back of sewing pins and you put them on your finger getting closer and closer together, you can still feel that there's 2 separate pins when they're touching each other. If you do this on your forehead, you'd stop being able to tell that there's 2 different pins touching you at about this far apart. So that wouldn't really be helpful. For animals that aren't primates, they have those the most amount of touch receptors in their whiskers, right? So, boom. With those longer whiskers, they are using it for spatial use. All right, so like one of y'all said, I can't see any of you, that the best method of going around is running into things. That's kind of what they're doing, but they're running into things with their whiskers. So if you can feel it with your whisker, you're going to run into it, you should probably back off. And then with the short whiskers, that's touching a metal ring right now, they would be able to tell that by using their whiskers. So we're gonna do a really quick night vision activity for y'all. All right, so the wonderful Dana has the classic doctor's office cards. You know it, you hate it. All right, so you can do this with or without your glasses if you have them. But for this, you don't have to participate. I'll stand over there with a flashlight, so if anybody that doesn't want to be in the dark can stay out of the dark. But before we start, if y'all could turn all of your headlights off. All right, so he's going to start walking backwards and changing those letters. So when you can no longer read what letter, just step backwards and step out the line, he's out. All right, so I'm going to stand back there with a flashlight.
But I can still tell. But
Dana's going to start backing up.
Gee, I wonder what it is. Okay.
D.
My eyes are adjusted to
L. P.
Okay, I'm getting close.
T.
Bye.
I. T. F. Well, then I got it. B. Sometimes, yeah. D. I can still read. D.
Maybe it was just the one.
L. P.
32.
This reminds me, Eddie, you old enough to remember these of them.
Yeah, I don't get it anymore. T.
Oh, yeah.
Right, Dana, you can come on back now.
Well,
I'm showing you.
Nice job, Dina.
Okay. Wasn't for the blacks. I might have been going even farther.
Well, that's the whole point. So for those of y'all who stepped back after like the first three, I'm sorry to report you've got mouse vision. I hope that it gets better for you, but for right now, that's what it is. For those of y'all who stayed till about halfway, you've got bat vision. And that's pretty good, because that's for the average human. For those of y'all who stayed to the end, who are you and why are you a flying squirrel? That's pretty suspicious.
Pretty awesome.
That's pretty, I mean, yeah, I'm very impressed.
I got out at F, but then I could read everything else, so it's probably just the F.
That can be tricky. Alright, so, we're going to head to one last stop to chit chat, because besides that raccoon, ignore the raccoon, guys, we have seen no nocturnal small mammals. What's that about? That's why we came here. That's so sad. So I want y'all to talk to each other while we walk about where they might be. What are they up to?
They're hiding. They're hiding.
Amongst yourselves.
They're probably too loud.
What do y'all think? Where are the critters? Hibernating? Some of them definitely are. Any other things? If they're not hibernating, what might they be doing?
Sleeping.
Sleeping? That's
Of course,
definitely,
if they're nocturnal, maybe not.
you never know. Alright, so bats, some of them are hibernating, definitely. Some of them have migrated and they're no longer here. But this here is a snag tree. Somebody spotlighted it. Beautiful. It's a dead tree with a bunch of holes in it. Kind of like an animal hotel. That's what might be. We're not going to stick our fingers in there. I'm not liable if you get rabies. But in there, I think would be a pretty good home for bats in the winter, maybe even flying squirrels during the day. So the bats that live here in the winter hibernate. All right, so that means that they're sleeping most of the time. They got to wake up for water though. Can't live without water. So they're basically getting to the same temperature as their surroundings, and then they'll wake up in the spring and try it out. It's pretty hot. So we're gonna watch a really quick thermal video of bats hibernating and waking up. So who thinks they know what a thermal video is. What's thermal imaging? Yeah.
Just keep on camera.
Yeah. So thermal imaging is basically reading heat signatures and turning it into a picture. So this here's my roommate's cat in thermal imaging. Beautiful. Her name is Pistachio, in case you were wondering, because I know you were. All right, so this scale here on the side is showing all the colors that thermal imaging is, right? So very cold would show up as dark blue and black, and very hot would show up as white and yellow. All right, so keep that in mind while we watch this video.
Eyes are the hottest.
Well, they're losing a lot of heat, you know? There's no, like, skin there, so it's just where they're losing all that heat. So I'm going to do this in 2 phases again, so y'all can see it. 'Cause this is like the coolest video I've ever watched. So, no pressure to do it, but I'll just start with the pack. I don't know which way to point it. I'm just going to point it straight forward. All right, so those are the bats there. See how dark they are? They're really cold. And then they're starting to wake up.
Oh.
See, now y'all know why you think it's the coolest video I've ever seen. Not just because they're getting that cold and then waking up after it, which is generally pretty impressive, but they're getting that cold and then warming up that fast. I know the video is sped up, but that's still really fast to go from really, really cold to being able to fly away. So flying squirrels are kind of doing the opposite of that. They're not sleeping. Well, they are sleeping, but they're not sleeping in hibernation. They're cuddling up together.
Aww.
That's the reaction. There it is. Yeah.
It's a puppy pro.
So, during all the other seasons, flying squirrels are typically nesting alone. But during the winter, they come together and they nest all together to be warm. I think that if this was a thermal image, this would be the most blinding white. I wouldn't legally be allowed to show you. You wouldn't be able to see anything afterwards. Alright? So they're doing this all throughout the day, and then in the mid-hours of the day. They're really only active right after sunset and right before sunrise. Right? This is what they're doing in the winter. And then for mice, are beneath the snow. It's a really good insulated environment. It keeps them pretty warm. So, yeah. Yeah, so if you'll see with fresh snow, you can kind of see raised sort of tunnels. And that's, oh, I'm sorry, I'm loving that. All right, so besides being inside your house, that's what mice are doing in the winter. So we can also think about, because of how large and big these ears are, and they're prioritizing that hearing above the being warm, if we look at a thermal image of all of them, boom. So here's the bat, we've got a mouse and a flying squirrel. If you look closely, this here's the bat's ear and that's the mouse's ear. They've got pretty cold ears. I don't know if I'd want that, but their ears are so big that the tips can get cold. They're not really built for the Wisconsin weather. Unlike the flying squirrel, it has pretty warm ears overall, because they want that warmth over that hearing ability. So Dana's gonna bring over something really cool to show y'all. Well, I'm gonna show y'all, but she's gonna bring it to me. All right, so who wants to guess what's in this box before I show it to you?
Flying squirrel.
Well, I promise there's nothing alive in here.
Yeah.
And you don't have to look at it if you don't want to. I promise it's not gruesome. All right? But so we've got 4 bat species. We've got a flying squirrel. We've got a white-footed mouse, and we've got a red-backed vole. All right? So in a second, I'm going to invite y'all, well, I'm going to walk around with it because I think that'll be easiest. Y'all can take off your gloves, you can touch them, though get hand sanitizer from Dana afterwards, all right? But I want y'all to see, is there a difference in the texture of their fur? Look at their ears, you can see how long some of their ears are. You can see how the bats, with the hoary bat and the eastern red bat, the skin that connects their feet to their tail is really hairy. Whereas some of the other bats, it's all skin. All right? So I'm gonna start with y'all. Touch them if you want, but just be gentle.
You don't have to touch them. I don't.
You don't have to touch them if you don't want
I don't
to.
want hand sanitizer.
No, you don't have to touch them. Just look at them. See what you notice about them, all right?
But they're crunchy.
Squirrel.
What's in the squirrel? It's packing. It's like stuffing.
Those guys are crunchy.
Yeah, it's just, they're all packed with different stuff. Oh, don't push them too hard. Gotta return these.
Sounds like silky.
Yeah? Alright, hold on. I'm gonna start walking around.
I didn't touch them. I would love to, but I don't know if there's hand sanitizer.
So, we're gonna head back inside real quick. I say back, but you were never there, I was there. But we're gonna go inside the bird deck quick, because I fear that this was all that I knew about nocturnal small mammals. At least all that I have the knowledge to teach you about. So, while we go inside, I want y'all to chat. Maybe some of you've never talked to me before. Your last chance! About the coolest thing you've learned. What is something that you hear and go home and be like, I just learned the coolest thing about this animal. Alright? So we're gonna head inside and I want everyone to chat about that with each other and we'll share it to the group. What was the coolest thing?
I'm gonna like try to show it to them. Hey, I don't know one.
Anybody else? So I feel like y'all have really learned that survival adaptations can vary different species, and that they all have different priorities when it comes to what survival So I pose this question to all of you, and I want as many answers as physically possible. If you were nocturnal, which one should you prioritize? That'd be a pretty fun one. I'd want that one. Yeah.
Good.
Thank you so much. Your hand's doing good? It can get cold. Filming sometimes out here.
I just went like this.
Oh,
Because of hearing and smell, yeah. Yeah. Everything. You can't have it all. You gotta choose one thing. Okay, that's a pretty good one. Anybody else want to share? I'll take that. So I want those of you here, like the sort of inspirational and awards on your own scientists. We all have animals around, not necessarily your pets. There's squirrels in trees. There's animals all over the place, and they're all prioritizing different senses. So I want y'all to leave here with the question: why is my noses the raccoon? Why is my dog's nose so much better than mine? Great sense of smell. Why are my cat's whiskers grown to the exact width of the widest part of its body? What's up with that? Leave here with those questions.
can you not figure out where the heck the thing is?
You can, where'd they go? Read papers, you can also just kind of see it for yourself. Really, I'll figure out the why. You get spooked out there all the time from hearing people in that. He definitely knows we're in here. That's true, they don't want to get stuck. Alright, so if you want to learn more, there's some books in the gift shop, ID guides, stuff like that, that you can get the next time we're open. I should really wrap up this program so we can look at the raccoon with the proper also which is just all of the attention. The College of Natural Resources Research Symposium coming up on April 18th. So if you want to learn more about any of the projects that we talked about today, that the Wildlife Society and stuff is doing, or ones that we didn't even talk about but are happening in Schmeeckle, they're all presenting at the Research Symposium. So they have posters, and you can just go as a community member and talk to them, or just look at their poster and find out what they're researching. So if you want a card for that, we've got that here. I can take these. So you don't forget that it's happening. You want to remember that it's happening, right? I'm clearly dehydrated and deranged, so this is where I'm leaving you. So you can look at raccoons. I was hoping there'd be flying squirrels, because there typically are, but I think this raccoon is scaring them away. But that's okay. Hopefully you can see a raccoon or a flying squirrel. You're welcome to stay in here for a while, warm up. You're welcome to go to your car and start feeling your toes again, maybe. You're welcome to do whatever you please. You can leave here, you can stay, but I appreciate you all for coming, and I thank you so much for listening. And have a great night. cream back here, y'all.
Oh!